everyone for joining us today. We have Gultekin Carr here, who is a research fellow in IVI. Gultekin will present today on the ethical and fair use of social media, the case of changing on Facebook. Sorry, Gultekin, I can't see the rest of your Facebook ads. I'll hand you over to Gultekin, and thank you again all for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Carol, and hi to everyone. And so for today's coffee talk, I just wanted to share an interesting topic, actually. So the background is we are working with a company. Paul and I will be working on a problem that company is facing. So the problem is positioned in the advertising industry, so digital advertising industry. It has a technical problem element, but it also has a business model, a problem element, and the core of it is described as, the tension between, the ethical use of data versus, maximizing value out of your advertising practices. So the context are Facebook ads. I think all of you are familiar with Facebook ads. Here are some examples. So usually they're shown in your Facebook feed, and usually there are call for action, some buttons, engagement buttons. Those are triggering the conversions, etc. So this is the basis of how Facebook actually creates money. And this practice has now changed. So first of all, I want to show you how people or advertisers or companies create Facebook ads. So that's quite simple and straightforward. They make use of a tool called Facebook Ad Manager, and there are certain steps, and everything is straightforward. And at some stage, you get to define audiences, your target group. So basically, here you decide where those ads are to be shown. And you have certain options, demographical options, geographical options. You have a specific section here called detailed targeting. So that's a really powerful feature of the ad manager, where you actually can select certain interests and behaviors characterizing that audience. For example, if you want to show ads for, let's say, software developers, you might add here like interest for, I don't know, programming languages, stuff like that. And you can also have specific features like, languages and connections. So these are features provided specifically by Facebook. So it's quite straightforward, very powerful. However, due to certain changes or awareness developing in society, Meta, so Facebook was, sort of convinced to comply to these changes. Certain things are based on regulatory changes, especially in Europe, and other things are just pressure from member base or even NGOs, etc. So from politics. So certain interest attributes from those targeting features have now been taken out, and there are specific categories. So health, religious aspects, sexual orientations, political affiliations, so any attributes that can characterize these things, or any affinity from the audience group that can be related to these, race and ethnicity. So there are like thousands attributes have been taken out, and the consequence is that it's not anymore possible anymore to use these. And the interesting feature here is also that you can also not avoid that your ads are shown to these to the target groups with these affinities. So you can't apply exclusion. So this is one aspect of the impact of these.
Michael, really quickly now. Bradley, can you just stop?
Sorry. And the second. Is there some issue?
No. Someone is muted. That's all.
Okay. Great, no worries. And the second thing is there's a specific category, targeting category, sorry. Special ads. So certain ads are categorized as special ads because of their sensitivity, or they are labeled as, or they're under some restrictive regulations, especially in Europe. And these special ads, you need to click or make active once you decide in your Facebook ad manager that category. So those are, related to credit, housing. So real estate companies, when they want to create ads, they obviously take this one off, and employment, so recruiting agencies. So here it is much more stricter than compared to the previous changes. Here at all, you're not able actually to target by age, by gender, by postal codes, or anything that is related to these attributes for special ads. So this is a huge limitation that came up lately, and is applied step by step by Facebook. So what are the reasons for that? Basically, the motivations for that, as I mentioned in the introduction. So on the one hand, Meta is trying to respect the interests of their user base. So everybody actually who's using Facebook, they want not to have their data or insight exploited, not to misuse or abuse my data. However, on the other hand, obviously, when they make money, and they make money with the people who place ads on their platform, they still want to meet their interest as well. So they're trying to balance this now. So on the one hand, the exploitation of sensitive data, and on the other hand, the efficiency on the targeting. So keeping these attributes listed. And Meta themselves, they talk about data privacy, ensuring data privacy. They talk about ensuring there is no discrimination, even not any unintentional discrimination possible, avoidance of inequality, unethical abuse, right? So we know those cases where Facebook data was misused for political reasons, political actions, and this is the base. But at the end of the day, what does that mean for the companies? There's substantial loss in targeting efficiency. So if I don't have access to those attributes to frame my audience, obviously I won't be that efficient anymore. So conclusively, the performance on my ad targeting, so click-through rates, etc., even the ads return on ad spend is affected substantially. And this is a process. So that means even if you have running campaigns, so you can run Facebook ad campaigns for a certain period of time, and then having these effects in place during the campaigns also have negative effects on your performance. And this results eventually in the companies not meeting not meeting what they promised to their customers, right? So when they say you get 30% ad revenue return, now it's probably 20 or even lower. So this is something I just wanted to share. This looks like a small change specifically for Facebook. But since Facebook has a huge role in the whole advertising market, it has a really big effect, especially for those companies who are using Facebook ads in special ad categories. For recruiting companies, it is crucial for a recruiting company to assign a certain interest so it can match the profile of the position. And now they're not able to do so. Having huge losses. So now those companies are facing this, and I just wanted to share this. And I have a small triggering question, like what would you do now, like as a company, if let's say you a real estate company, your advertising not efficient anymore, you need way more ad spend, or a recruiting company, you can't, all your performance measures are low, and what would you do, like from any perspective? So currently in the industry, they're trying to have workarounds around these, for example, with proxy attributes, right? So if I'm not able to assign gender, so I might look at the attributes that relate to certain gender, right? For example, I don't know, sports cars more associated with males, for example. Those are workarounds, but not really effective, I mean. And other aspect is, some companies are even thinking of adapting their whole business model. And we don't need to forget that, those advertising companies, pure advertising companies, that's their bread and butter. So that's how they make money. And now they're like inhibited. They're having huge losses. Yeah, thanks for your attention. So this is, I just wanted to share. And also, if you have any questions, just feel free. Yeah, and I just want to add one more thing. So obviously this is some, big change, some limitation in the industry, but as we know, those changes or challenges can also trigger innovativeness, right? So there are some cases where companies actually trying to develop, usually it's machine learning driven technologies to overcome these. And one benefit of this, sorry, someone was saying?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So if we are looking, if the advertising industry is looking at so many losses, but it's now at least it's ethical in terms of the kind of data which is being shared. So do you think this is a good development overall for the society, or how do you see it overall for the society?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, whenever there's a question of something good for society, I would rather step a bit back and ask myself, so what are the interest groups here? So is there an interest group for the goods of society? Probably NGOs, etc. But those who sit on money are, advertising industry, Facebook, Meta itself. So at the end of the day, probably it will come to some agreement where we'll meet certain standards in ethical use of data, and at the same time so for Meta, for example, my own interests. So we should not forget that Meta is also having consequences on this. And yes, so, and the whole advertising industry, maybe at some stage there will be some, where we have met from a customer side, right, or from the user side, to have met their standard, because it's also not clear on their side. They won't have personalized ads, but they don't want to have misused their sensitive data. In retailing, for example, we know about this development with the zero party, right? So customers willing to share as long as you give me a personalized offering, right? So that could be similar development here, but at that level, it's very tricky, and they only act when there's pressure. So you see, and Facebook actually didn't act straight away. So they were just, it's similar with Google cookie policies, taking some time. So that's why it's interesting.
And where do you see the research innovation in this? Like, how can researchers help advertising companies to overcome this?
Yeah, that's so basically what I tried to say just a couple of minutes earlier. From a technology point of view, So as I was trying to explain, some companies actually externalize these targeting feature. So, Facebook Ad Manager provides, they're sitting on this huge amount of data. They know how strong the propensities, etc., with certain attributes and the audiences, right? And so they can tell you or guarantee you a minimum return from your ad spend, or whatever. So this is some feature you as an ad company make use of, right? Obviously, Facebook gets their share from your spending, but it's enough for you to have your value chain and your customers. But now companies, the one who are dealing with this problem or actually identifying the core of this problem, trying to externalize this targeting feature before they actually make use of the ad manager, right? So they have features, machine learning tools that characterize audiences in a way that you might just need 5 attributes from the ad manager and still ensuring the same efficiencies. Like that's at least what they promise on the web pages. And the other thing would be the business model perspective, obviously. So probably, some companies would see this as an opportunity, right? So instead of saying, oh, we are losing ad revenue, they would just label their practice more like, oh, we're an ethical company. We make use of, we are respecting sensitive data, etc. So turning that weakness into an advantage, basically, or or a combination of these things. That's what I can imagine. Can research help a lot? It's a new intersection, so it's not only business model technology, it's not business model technology and data governance coming into play now. And it's all started with data privacy. Now we have tapped into ethical standards or ethical requirements. And then we have consumer behavior as well, with personalized expectations. There's a lot what research can do here.
Yeah, just thank you for the presentation, by the way, Baltikin. It was a nice topic indeed. So just coming back to what we just talked about, so probably that is the point where this ethical safeguards come into practice, and we have to look around what those safeguards are and what they provide in this context. And most importantly, what are the research practices which are being happening in this area around? So that is also important, I guess.
Yes, exactly, the awareness for these different aspects, they need to come more into the foreground now, because this issue here, for that company, it was specific issue, yeah, we have to do this. But once you do researching on it, it's really substantial. It's affecting all industries, and the problem is not rooted in that industry. It's actually rooted in politics, society, right? So very, very, very challenging. But research can help, as usual, with to overcome this.
That's right.
Can I just ask you a question? Yeah, I found it very interesting. Mary Corcoran is my name. I'm a sociologist. You use the term that externalize some of this work to kind of get around the restrictions that exist. And I just found it really interesting that you gave the example that you could use a proxy for gender. So you immediately gave an example of a very stereotypical thing that a fast car would probably, infer a masculine kind of audience. But that's kind of creepy as well, because it's almost like, we're trying to get away from creating or looking at populations and consumers in terms of their demographics, their profile, but in fact, trying to get around the law means re-institutionalizing or emphasizing gender differences or ethnic differences or so on. So in fact, it ends up, I don't know, creating more of a kind of identitarian sort of understanding of the human condition. Whereas I actually think, you know, what you've described, it's great. It's stopping these organizations from knowing everything about us so that, you know, we could just go back to being humans and to mass marketing rather than customized, individualized marketing.
Yeah, thanks for that. So different interesting aspects you mentioned. Yes, so the last thing you mentioned, that was also my perception that, you know, before we had digital marketing, it was common or accepted by advertisers to have this inefficiency, right? When you look at TV ads, you wouldn't know who's in front of the TV. So keeping that example with the sports car, for example, and then it's not efficient enough. And right now it's turned back again. Like these are, you know, this is the drawback basically where advertisers lose this efficiency. Programmatic advertising was introduced like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. It was there like way longer, but you know, from the industry perspective, I don't know, like 7 years or 6 years. And the whole thing they were advertising with was, oh yeah, you get precise data on your ad spends, right? And now they're losing this ability a bit with the changes, and that's why this uproar and this drawback. The other thing you mentioned with, you know, the feature on selecting gender or the age, when you design your target. So that got so much, how do you call it, like practical. I don't think they see these things anymore. When they want to have a proxy for gender, what they only see is, you can't blame them. What they only see is, how do I get the same return on ad spend with means of technology or whatever new things. Yeah, instead of, you know, oh, maybe I should not start or profiling a whole gender with new technology.
Yes, it's very interesting because there's this very famous sociologist, Max Weber, who basically said that, you know, basically we create a disenchanted world by just thinking about efficiencies and calculation all of the time and emptying out any sense of rich content or value systems in society. So it just seems to me quite a good example of that. But I really enjoyed I enjoyed you sharing this and this perspective with us because it's really helpful.
Yeah, happy to share. Like, you're welcome. Yeah. And also, you know, the power of Facebook here. You know, when you look, you know, I was describing, no, it's like the ad manager, right? So they created this powerful tool. There are whole industries and sectors relying on this tool to make money, right? But they tweak a bit here and make some changes. It's affecting all those industries. So this is also some aspect, I don't know to what extent it's addressed, probably in research, but this imbalance of power distribution in certain sectors, there was questions all the time as well. Like, example on Facebook, Google has also certain issues now with cookies and their workarounds introducing to those advertisers. And this is highly relevant. I think there needs to be new instances of, you know, dealing with what is sensitive data, what is ethical data, and how to, you know, govern industries, making sure that those disruptions not happen overnight. Yeah, very interesting.
We might have time for one more question, folks, from the audience, if there's any more questions.
I got Paul, just one quick question. not overly familiar with the area other than what we did, the discussions we had with the company. But I mean, are there any other ethical frameworks, or in development or in research around? There's a lot of conversations about the ethical use of AI. I mean, are there frameworks out there that could be brought to bear on challenges like these, so that there's an ethical dimension to it rather than always just trying to find a workaround?
Yeah, very important. No, like I didn't. So this is on the agenda now. Like looking into how does it actually addressed from specifically from this ethical perspective. And I believe there are, but I haven't done the research yet. But this is going to be one of the angles, right? So having these tools or guidelines on how to address these. The workarounds are like, just popping up from the industry. The workarounds are based on the motivation for workarounds are like survivability, etc. Or for long-lasting impact, as you say, like that direction is required. What you just mentioned, so I agree with that. Yeah. How's this, Marcus?
I know Carol said that was the last question what Paul had, but just kind of around this when Paul and just said when you answered this with work around ethical frameworks, but I also think this kind of fair value sharing, and you did some work into this as well. So when we look at, because there is a lot of value created with advertising, that personal information about the clients, customers around this. And if we find a way to share that value back, incentivize, for example, even like I probably would be happy to give certain level of data, certain level of customer interaction away if I get at least some benefits back. And that's probably a tricky one, how to do that. So that it's based at the moment, it's very advertising market oriented, so the gain and the benefits is there. But I think if you think about more like actually distributing that value, not only just in the commercial world, to actually the ones who own the data, who create the data, that would be a really nice way to do so. More like kind of maybe a broker system where we have, first of all, if I give consent to that, they can use my data, and what they create with it, that I get it back, I get some forms of value share back. That would be a really nice way of looking at it, that fair data value sharing.
Oh, yes, totally agree with that. And yes, as you mentioned, so Rehan and I, digital retail cluster with the Edge framework, and also we tap into those innovations, labeled as zero party or first party, exactly capturing this agreement, right? So, like, we might need to research into the digital advertising industry, to what extent it's applicable. Maybe it's already applicable, as I was mentioning, business model innovation. Certain agencies might already have the, I don't know how they would do it, like, because you have some intermediate, like you have Facebook in between, and that's, that's why this governance aspect might need to affect here or have a certain role.
Fantastic. So if we've no more questions, guys, I think we'll have to leave it there. It's just nearly 2. And thank you very much, Gultigan. That was really good and very informative. So thank you very much. Just to share with you folks, to stay in touch with us, contact us on the info@ivi.ie email, and sign up for our newsletter. We have our IVI Twitter and LinkedIn. And if anyone wishes to give a talk, have a coffee talk, please get in touch with myself on that email. We are full for this year, but we have some for early next year. We have some available slots, so please do get in touch if anyone wishes to join up to participate in one for early next year. And next week we continue the coffee talks. We have Mary Flynn from Dublin City Council, who will do our talk next week. So thank you all very much for joining. And thank you again, Gultakan.
Thank you all.